Wendy. Back in October of 2011, I was involved in an accident. I was walking across the street in Philadelphia and I was struck by a taxi cab, which changed my life dramatically. I had major back injuries, head injuries, concussions. Had to have some emergency surgeries from that. Doctors really couldn't tell me how I could get better or what I could do to get better. And exactly a year later, after my taxi incident, I started having major drop foot issues. I could barely walk. We were on vacation at the Jersey Shore, and I ended up in a wheelchair. And from that point, I'm gonna get emotional. Sorry.
I'm Gail Sanders, and I came to Dr. Conicello's office about a year ago. I had been suffering from carbon monoxide poisoning, which happened from our generator that was outside our house, and the exhaust had gone into all the vents outside into the house. And I had suffered for a couple days with it before I actually went to the hospital. Going to the hospital, they had no clue. They said I did not have it. They sent me I went to my regular doctor. She could not figure out what was wrong. And until a pharmacist told me to come and go into a hyperbaric chamber, I didn't know what to do. And so I found out about Dr. Conicello. I came and he took care of taking care of my carbon monoxide poisoning, which had gone into the membranes of my body. I was very, very sick. I had pain in my head. I was nauseous. I was doing crazy things, trying to put a large toaster into a small microwave for some reason. I'd go to speak and other words would come out than what I was thinking. I was getting very frightened. I didn't know what was happening to me, and I was so thankful that a year ago I found Dr. Conicello, and he was able to not only correct that situation and that problem in my life, but I also found out that he also took care of diabetes.
When I first came here, I was suffering from extremely bad depression. I had really bad brain fog, was unable to really comprehend or be able to work out any issues or problems in my mind. I also had a knot in my stomach every morning until almost noon. I couldn't eat. Although I wasn't eating on a regular basis, I was gaining a lot of weight and I felt bloated all the time.
From that point, I started really doing a lot of research. My doctors wanted me to do all kinds of tests to make sure that the concussion wasn't back, what was going on, and that's when they found that I had 22 active lesions on my brain, in which case they diagnosed me with MS, primarily because of the trauma of the accident I was in. So, doing all of my research, I stumbled across this place and started treatments here. At that time, I was able to use a cane, but I still had to have the assistance sometimes of a wheelchair.
Then after the tests came back and we found out what I was allergic to, and I stopped eating those things, within 1 week, symptoms that I had had for some of them for a year, some of them for 15 years just disappeared, gone. And I've been staying on the diet since the 1st of January, and every week I've felt better and better. I've had more and more energy. I was finally able to get to the gym, and now I can't wait to go, where in the beginning I was so depressed and so weak I really didn't think I could go.
Which I was very, very high in my A1C, which was the test for diabetes, which was a number 11, and he has been able to, through all types of treatments, been able to get me almost totally off insulin and all the way down to a 6.2 in my A1C. My sugars are now normal. I am very, very happy with all the treatment that I've gotten here. It has been a wonderful experience. These are wonderful people, and I'm just so glad that God gave me the knowledge to be able to come here and to go through all that Dr. Conicello has done for me and his staff. and I'm so thankful.
After the first 5 treatments here, I didn't need... Sorry.
It's okay.
I didn't need my cane anymore, or my wheelchair. After about 10 treatments, the dizziness was gone. I was able to actually drive, which I hadn't done in almost a year. And it just has continued to get better and better. It's completely changed my life through the different dietary measures I've taken, through the help here. I can't give this place enough credit, because it really, really has turned my life around to the point now where my wheelchair that I had has been donated to an organization that uses wheelchairs. My cane I gave to a good friend who had hip replacement surgery. And now I'm living life, going to the gym. I have a 6-year-old little girl. I'm involved in her life. And life is just really fantastic.
And now I feel great. I feel better every single day. I've lost about 20 pounds, even though it's not a weight loss diet, but it helped me drop some weight that I needed to get rid of, and started the workout program that I was taught about here, and things are going great.
Great.
Yeah.
And I have already recommended him to many of my friends. Some have been coming, and more are going to be coming, and I highly recommend him to you. It seems that he understands much more than the medical doctors, much more than the hospitals that you could go to and the other doctors. He understands what really is going on in our bodies and is able to correct it without dangerous medications, and through doing just diet and other type of treatments, we've been able to correct so many things. So please, if you are having a problem, go see Dr. Conicello at Agape.
I have to say a huge thank you to Dr. Conicello and this wonderful place, because they've changed my life for sure. I would highly, highly, highly recommend it. I think that's
Great.
it.
Yeah. As you guys have figured out by now, I am Dr. Steve Conicello with the Agape Institute, and these are the results you've just seen from the patients that you can expect here at our center. And how many of you guys out there would love to have the same results? I know I would, and I know I did. I had an autoimmune disease that almost claimed my life. If you guys have ever heard of a thing called Hashimoto's, Hashimoto's is an autoimmune disease that attacks your thyroid and tries to rob your life. Here I was in my first year of chiropractic school, and it hit, and it wiped me out. I could not get out of bed. If my house was on fire, there's no way I could have gotten out of the house. So thank God for doctors like us around the world that looked at things differently, that helped save my life. So, and there's doctors around the world that you may have even heard of this documentary. It's called Escape Fire. Escape Fire, basically the doctors around the world got together and they started shooting in their clinics. They went to the Cleveland Clinic. If you guys have ever heard of the Cleveland Clinic, the Cleveland Clinic is probably the biggest and most prestigious hospital in the entire world that also has a medical school. And they're changing a lot of the curriculum over to functional medicine. So what is functional medicine? We look at the body different. We look at to see how it functions versus management of disease process. So which would you rather have? Would you rather be managed with a disease, or would you rather have your body get regulated and then your body ends up helping that disease to become better? That's what I wanted, and that's what I got. So what I want to do is I want to play you a quick clip of Escape Fire to help you to understand what's happening in our country today, what's happening with our practitioners today, and give you a global look of what's happening.
All I hear is how we're going to give more people access to the present system and how we're going to pay for it. But the present system doesn't work, and it's going to take us down. We need a whole new kind of medicine. We don't have a healthcare system in this country. We have a disease management system.
Many people have a hard time believing that these simple choices that we make in our lives each day can make such a powerful difference.
It's the American healthcare system. It's generating rivers of money that are flowing into very few pockets.
In the health insurance industry, at the executive level, what's most important is meeting Wall Street's expectations. And they have to. These for-profit companies, by law, have to serve shareholders. You almost forget what you're doing is providing health care.
The healthcare system is unsustainable. We're really mortgaging the future. Not just the health of healthcare, we're talking about the health of the nation.
In a community health center like where I work, the administration is telling you you need to see more patients. We're in the red. So it sounds like you're feeling really overwhelmed right now. Sorry. Don't be sorry. I can't spend the time with the patient, and you end up kind of being this revolving door. You just never get to the bottom of things.
When you reward physicians for doing procedures instead of talking to patients, that's what they're going to do, is do procedures. If I spend 5 minutes with you and put in one of these stents, I probably get paid $8,000 on up. For me to spend 45 minutes on an established visit with a patient and to try to figure out what their true problem is, I probably get paid $15. It's a completely irrational system.
30,000 Medicare recipients die each year from care they didn't need.
That's the equivalent of a jumbo jet crashing every single week. If the aviation industry killed as many people, we'd be up in arms.
How did we come to believe that the only way to treat disease is by giving drugs?
The military is a microcosm of what the problem society's having.
Soldiers' use of prescription drugs has tripled in the past 5 years.
When you're deployed, they feed you, feed you, feed you, feed you. All this stuff just to keep you going. Mission, mission, mission. This medications I was on.
Most of the disease that we deal with is lifestyle related and therefore preventable. We've got to move in the direction of disease prevention and health promotion.
At Safeway, we provide incentives for people to engage in healthier behavior. We've improved the health of our workforce, the productivity of our workforce, and our own bottom line. So making money and doing good in the world are not mutually exclusive.
Here at the Cleveland Clinic, we're all salaried. What we do for a patient is dependent upon what the patient needs, not on our financial incentives.
The Army Surgeon General directed that we establish the Pain Management Task Force to take a look at alternatives to narcotics.
I'm 2.5 months out of combat. I was skeptical. So skeptical. I am a complete new person.
By accepting the fact the healthcare system is badly broken, we can seek out the escape fires, the potential solutions, and create a sustainable and patient-centered system for the future.
If you don't take care of you, nobody else will.
And I can do that.
Yeah, you can.
I can.
So as you guys seen, we're having a pretty big healthcare crisis, aren't we? Yeah, really, really big healthcare crisis, right? So what constitutes healthcare crisis? Would we say that it's our food? Is it our water? Is it lack of exercise? Yeah, it's every one of those things. And that's what I hear every day with patients coming into our institute, that, you know, doc, I'm not as active as I used to be. And you know what? The foods I'm eating, even though I'm eating organic, I'm still getting sicker. What's wrong? What's going on? Well, there's a lot more behind the scenes that we're going to talk about today, about how it leads to sickness and disease in your body, and especially blood sugar disorders, or in medicine they call it diabetes. Okay? And we're going to help you to make those right decisions, to take action steps to help you defeat your diabetes. How many want that? You know, when I was really sick, I had a lot of blood sugar issues. Okay? And it took a lot for me to get it under control, and we put a system together to help you guys to become better. So what else would we say that we're having problems with as far as our healthcare crisis? The biggest one I always hear is insurance. Okay? And unfortunately, they're not behind us. And as you can see here, even Medicare. Medicare makes all the rules for all the insurance companies. And they made up this rule about 10 years ago that says care that seeks to prevent disease, promote health, and prolong and enhance the quality of your life is not considered medically necessary. So what does this mean? That means that they want to give you medications and they want to give you surgeries to manage your disease. Does anywhere in there say that they are going to cure it or remediate it? No, because they don't want to do that. They want to manage you so they can increase profits for big pharma. That's not okay in my book. Okay, I've been a traditionally trained chiropractor. I had specialties within chiropractic, doing functional endocrinology, functional medicine, functional neurology, all these things to help people to get better, even clinical and functional nutrition. These things help to get people well. And I want to be able to help you guys to have that as well, so you can get the results that you deserve. Okay, so let's go ahead and move forward. So, like we said before, America's healthcare crisis. How many guys out there know that it's really good to exercise? Right? We all need to exercise, right? But what if we have a dog? Should we exercise the dog? We absolutely should exercise the dog. But I promise you, this is what I see, is people literally walking their dog, driving a car. That's not okay. Maybe if it was a cat. No, I don't want to offend the cat people out there. But realistically, you've got to get up, you got to move, you got to do things, because the state of our healthcare today, we've got these huge, humongous diseases that are taking our lives away. Still number 1 is heart disease. Number 2 is cancer. And number 3, nobody wants to talk about, it's called iatrogenic disease. This means it's hospital and physician-induced disease. That's having 6 jumbo jets crashing every day in order to be number 3. That's not okay in my book. And the biggest one that nobody's talking about, the big, humongous pink elephant in the room, is diabetes. It's going to be the number 1 killer, they're saying, within the next 5 to 10 years. Because abnormal sugars or sugar imbalances that lead to diabetes leads to almost every other disease out there known to man. So who else wants to reverse their diabetes or defeat it? Yeah, absolutely. We all want to do that, right? Great, so let's go ahead and go on forward. So there are 5 different types of stressors that lead to sickness and disease. Number 1 is a physical trauma. What happens in that is our bodies deregulate and it creates an imbalance to the brain. And the brain starts to disconnect and it doesn't heal the body the way that it should. Say, for example, like all the big rage now is post-concussion syndrome in the NFL, right? Okay, what ends up happening is concussion after concussion after concussion, or concussion forces to the body, it deregulates the brain and creates a massive sugar rush to the brain. And over time, that causes the brain to have insulin resistance, and then over time it becomes Alzheimer's, dementia, things of that nature, right? Okay. Now, number 2 is chemical traumas. Now, chemical traumas can come in a couple of different forms. Wrong things you put on your body, things that you put into your body, like medications, over-the-counter drugs. I mean, doctors around the world are begging people not to take ibuprofens because they're literally killing people's brains and their livers and their kidneys. Okay? Now, also, we've got chemical traumas like, they call it xenobiotics. That's the new term all over the world, xenobiotics. Well, what does that even mean? That's pollution. They're just masking it, calling it xenobiotics. So why is that bad? Xenobiotics increase estrogen in your body. So what's the big deal, doc? What's that mean? Well, increased estrogen, that increases your risk for cancer. So what's one of the number 1 side effects of diabetes that diabetics get? Cancer, because they have high amounts of estrogen and sugar. It's like rocket fuel for the estrogen. Not okay. We got to get that sugar under control to get you better, okay? Number 3, emotional traumas. Now, this is one of the ones we can control, right? Well, at least we think. Somebody says, oh, I don't like your hairdo. It looks ugly. You just kind of dodged a brick on that one. Like, all right, sure, whatever, guy. That one we can handle. Or maybe not. Or maybe you've got a deadline, or you're under stress, you own your own business, and all kinds of other stuff, right? Those stressors can lead to a lot of different things, right? So, number 4, atmospheric traumas. And people are thinking, atmospheric traumas, what does that even mean? It's like that same person they know a storm's coming in before Even it's reported on the Weather Channel. Like your knee hurts, your elbow hurts, you got a stiff back. Those are atmospheric traumas to the body. Your body should naturally adapt. But if those things are happening, it's not adapting and it creates stress to the body. It torques the muscles. It increases all kinds of epinephrine, norepinephrine, or your adrenaline in your body. And the biggest stressor of all is food, okay? Food is supposed to promote tissues, promote life, promote energy, and also repair of your tissues, okay? Now, is McDonald's doing that? Okay? Is Hardee's doing that? Okay? Is Chick-fil-A doing that? Not one of them, okay? And I'd have to say, it's actually doing the opposite. It's actually tearing the body down, and it's creating more problems. And that's not okay. We need to start eating to live instead of living to eat, okay? Now, one of my greatest mentors, who I never even met in my life, Albert Einstein. I'm a huge quantum physics fan, okay? Because realistically, everything is sound, light, and frequency. And his favorite saying was this: if you keep doing the same things over and over and over again, expecting different results, what's that the definition of? Insanity. We don't want to be insane with the stuff that we put on our bodies, in our bodies, or what we are subject to, because it creates sickness and disease in our body. Does that make sense, everybody? Of course it does, right? Okay, so what about our healthcare system? Now, a lot of people come in and they'll say, I've got this disease, I've got this symptom, I got that symptom, doc. And usually what's the first place that they go? It's not me, it's not their other practitioners. Do you know where they typically go? They go to what? Dr. Google. Because they got their phone out and they're Googling it. Oh my God, I got these symptoms, okay? And that's the first thing, is they'll think, what kind of symptoms do I have, right? What medical condition do I have, okay? The second thing is that, and most people don't know this, most of Big Pharma pays for WebMD, okay? And also, they have a lot of money to put into Google. So all their drugs are gonna pop up if you put in these symptoms. And that's not fair to you, because a lot of those things can be off use or off label, okay? Like for example, the second thought is, again, what drugs do I need? And the biggest thing is this, is say you've got a plumbing problem, like you're having a urination problem, right? And you're a female, and all these drugs pop up and half of them are for prostates. Okay, ladies, you don't need a prostate drug. You don't have one, right? Okay, it doesn't make sense, right? Everything needs to be biospecific to you. We got to take out all the junk and find out exactly why things happened. Okay, like I said before, I was a traditionally trained chiropractor, but what you also don't know is I also went back to med school too. And in med school, they used to call me Dr. Y. And it was kind of a funny thing, but I actually counted it as a badge of honor, because I'd sit there and go, why is that? Why is that? Why is that? I always wanted to go, where did that come from? But in med school, they didn't teach us that. It was, here's your symptom, here's your drug. And it didn't make sense to me. Like, why can't we go back to the beginning? Where did it come from? Why can't we get rid of it? It doesn't make sense. And I came to an aha moment because of this, is this. Pharmaceutical companies spend billions of dollars a year to not only infuse their stuff into the medical system as far as education, but we are also one of 2 countries in the entire world that allow us to advertise medications. As Americans, we are 5% of the population and take over 87% of the drugs in the world. That's not cool in my book. Hey, if you need it, you need it, right? But what if we could find out why the body have a problem and then get the body to do it what it's supposed to do, what it was designed by God to do, to start healing it and bringing it back to its normal state, right? And sadly, drug companies, they'll say if you've got a thyroid problem, a diabetes problem, a hormonal problem, you have to be on those drugs for life. And even the CDC says that's not true. We've got to start taking our country back and our lives back. So let's move forward. So symptoms like this we'll see in our office. Bowel difficulty. All right, now why would we see bowel difficulty? Okay, number one, bowel difficulty is a big deal. You think, oh, I'm just not going to the bathroom, or I'm going to the bathroom once a day. What's the big deal? Here's the big deal. All 600 of our hormones in our body start out in our small intestine. So if our bowel is sluggish, what do you think our hormones are going to be? Now we're talking about hormones for our brain. Hormones for everywhere, not just male and female. Okay, that's a big, big deal, right? Here's the other thing. 80% of our immune system starts out in our small intestine. So if our bowel is sluggish, do you think we're going to have immune compromised problems? Absolutely we're going to. The other 20% is controlled by your brain. That's also what we need to look at when we're at the Institute too. We look at how the brain is functioning. How is it interconnecting? We use a thing called the QEEG to actually analyze your brain to see, is it performing correctly? Is it underperforming? Or is it super overperforming, creating problems within the brain itself? And that's what happens in the cases for disconnection syndrome, or what they call spectrum disorders, with ADHD, dyslexia, autism, Asperger's, OCD, PDD, all of these things. And we have the technology to look for that to help these people to help recover the brain as well, okay? So we also see tired, sluggish, mood swings, nervous and emotional, and the biggest one, depression and anxiety. Do you know that over 50,000 people a year actually died from the side effects of serotonin reuptake inhibitors? These are the drugs that give people for depression and anxiety. Who's signing up for that one? That's not okay. It's really not. Do you know where serotonin's made? It's a hormone. And hormones are made where? Our gut. So why are we not looking there? And we're taking this chemicalized version of it that actually shuts off our own serotonin in our intestine and puts chemicalized in our brain. Not okay. Really, really not okay. Now we look at insomnia. That's another big one that we see. And this isn't necessarily defined by, I can't get to sleep. It's also defined by, I got to sleep and I'm waking up at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. Who's doing that one? Okay, a lot of people are. And we're going to talk about that, why that's so poignant in disease of diabetes, because this is one of the kingpins of why it's happening. Okay, so let's go ahead and move forward. Weight gain, this is another big one for diabetics, because what ends up happening is it's hard for them to lose weight, or they'll lose 10 pounds and then gain back 15. Who's doing that? A lot of people, okay? The reason why, and we're going to talk about it in a few minutes, is a thing called cortisol. That guy can be your friend or it can be your enemy, okay? In the case of diabetes, it is slammed down, it is your enemy, okay? So let's go forward. Now, we're going to talk about the thyroid. The thyroid is the master of all 600 hormones, okay? So let's break this down a little bit. Now, the thyroid is a butter-sized organ that sits at the base of your neck, okay? It sends out T4, which is an inactive thyroid, and then there's T3, which is active. Well, we only send out 7% of active, okay? So that's kind of like, I'm in a car, I'm in the best gas mileage, saving thing on the planet, and I'm trying to get to California with only 7% of my gas tank. I probably won't even make it to the middle of Pennsylvania from where we're at. And that's not okay. So what the body does is it protects itself, and then it sends inactive thyroid to the liver, okay? And then it gets converted in the liver and then goes into the small intestine to help control those guys and to work all those hormones out. Now, let's go ahead and go through this. So it's going into the liver. 20% goes out to our peripheral. It'll go out to our hands and our feet. And typically people that are diabetic or that have thyroid problems will have cold hands and cold feet because it's not getting converted correctly. Okay? What will also happen is we're not converting correctly going to the small intestine. Okay? And we're going to show you why, okay, in just a second. Now, these 5 things, the chemical, emotional, the physical, the atmospheric, and the food stressors, what happens is when we get stressed, it shuts the thyroid down. That's a huge thing. And guess what? Our body goes in response, oh my God, I'm under stress. I'm being chased by a lion. Now, if you're being chased by a lion and say you just ate food, do you think your body's going to worry about processing food? No, it's got to get blood to all of your extremities, your legs especially, to run away from that lion, right? So your body needs fast sugar, so it uses cortisol. Cortisol is your enemy at this point because it shuts down thyroid and it won't convert thyroid either. So we start feeling fatigued. We wake up in the middle of the night. All kinds of different things start to happen. Well, cortisol is your body's pure sugar in response to stress. So when we're stressed, okay, in one of those 5 stressors, what happens to the food you just ate? It locks it in the stomach. Your body ferments it, turns it to alcohol, and puts it into your liver. So what's alcohol? Sugar. What's your adrenal gland? Cortisol and sugar. So sugar and sugar. So do you see how that's a big problem? Your body starts turning on the sugar mechanisms. And your body, it doesn't even have to be tasty cakes, ding dongs, and ho-hos. It could be kale. It could be an apple. It could be meat. And it can turn it to that. Not okay. We got to find out, why did that happen to you in the first place, right? Dr. Y. Think of Dr. Y, right? Okay, so this is that mechanism. It's the stressor mechanism, okay? Those stressor mechanisms, when they turn on, it turns down the thyroid and it turns on pure sugar of the body, okay? Now let's go on. Now, and it turns into insulin resistance. Now that's a big fancy word for prediabetes. And prediabetes then turns into diabetes over time if you don't shut that mechanism down, okay? Even if you're taking your medications for it, it doesn't shut it down. All it does is it manages the sugar part of it, okay? Now, when we get into insulin resistance, we can get, polycystic ovarian syndrome, hormonal imbalances, estrogen dominance. Estrogen dominance, why is that a bad thing, right? Estrogen rises, what can it create in diabetics? The big C word, right? Okay. And then it goes into high cholesterol, increased fat storage, upper abdominal obesity, migraines, aches and pains, fatigue after meals, cravings for sugars, inability to lose weight, constant hunger, fatigue, all of these things, okay? And then, boom, the system crashes, and then we turn type 2 diabetic, okay? Or it can even happen in a child and create type 1 diabetes, okay? So, and what happens in diabetes is we end up getting vascular disease, where the sugar eats away the vessels of the body. We start losing fingers and toes, and it starts attacking the nerves. So we get peripheral neuropathy, or sugar sitting on a nerve, eating away the nerve, which becomes quite painful. And it can attack the eye, causing diabetic retinopathy, so we end up going blind, okay? And we start getting heart attacks, strokes, okay? Because it'll attack the heart, and it'll also attack the brain too. And the big thing that people are not talking about is it becomes a burden on people's families. It ends up leading to their demise. This is where they end up dying because of not knowing why their body's imbalancing sugars. Okay? And another one that no one's talking about, what people don't realize is diabetes type 2 or type 1 will turn into type 3 diabetes. And it hasn't got much press. But type 3 diabetes is Alzheimer's and dementia. And with it, very soon, if not already, my book is actually going to be on sale very soon on Amazon. It's called Sugar Brain, and it breaks down the whole mechanism of how your body manages sugars. Your brain will then mismanage sugars and then create Alzheimer's and dementia. Not okay. And this I hear all the time, guys. But doc, my labs are normal. Why do I still feel awful? Well, there's a difference when we're looking at labs, guys. What ends up happening is this. Lab ranges are inaccurate. Every lab company has their own set of values. There's no one standard. That's the problem. That's why we use functional lab assessments, or what we call biospecific lab assessments, to help the body to understand what's going on there. What is the transition? What is the point where the body's starting to functionally start to get sick, instead of waiting till it got sick and then managing it? And in medicine, they use a thing called bell curves. Okay? They say that 95% of the people in America, they fit within this. Have you looked at Americans lately? We're 5% of the population. We're taking over 87% of the drugs. Are we healthy? Of course those numbers are skewed. That's why. That's why we have to use lab assessments that are functional. We have to look at it that way. Okay? And like we said, we have to use biospecific labs in order to get to the basement cause of what's happening to that person. Now, a TSH, which is the test, the typical test that doctors will run for a thyroid disorder, which is thyroid stimulating hormone. That's your brain telling your thyroid, hey, you may want to make some thyroid, okay? Some active or inactive, right? So the ranges are this. Abnormally low is 0.3, okay? Abnormally high is 5.7. That's like saying from Philadelphia to California. That's the range in Labland. That's humongous. That's a big span. Okay? We need to tighten those ranges down and find out where did the body dysfunction and find out how is the body not regulating this thing correctly from the brain, from the thyroid, because most of the time it's the brain not controlling the thyroid correctly and the gut not controlling the thyroid correctly. Okay? They all are synergistic together. Okay? So realistically, when we're looking at a biospecific lab analysis or a functional lab range, we need to be between 1.8 and 3.0. Okay? It needs to be tightened in. So now if you're below 1.8, that's what they typically say that, all right, you're trending towards hyperthyroid. And if you're going above 3.0, that's hypothyroid. Okay? It's in an inverse proportion. Okay? But we want to see those things roped in. We want to bring those guys back in. We really don't want the body to be off any of those axes. Now we have to look at these guys. Now, just like we talked about before, we talked about that the thyroid is one of the biggest kingpins of what actually creates diabetes in the body. Now, every one of these guys up here on the screen, they all have the same symptoms. So how do we know if it's diabetes, if it's a thyroid disorder, if it's a GI disorder, if it, is it a hormonal imbalance, is it a nerve system imbalance, like we talked about? Because we could have a trauma that's causing the brain to imbalance, and then the brain is actually creating that disease process. How do we know? We have to have the proper testing to know it. And that's what we do here at the Institute. We test it and test it and test it till we know exactly where it is. Then we teach you and mentor you through that so you can help your body to get yourself better. Wouldn't you rather get control back for your own health? Of course you would want to do that. That's what everybody says when they come into the Institute. Now, most people don't know this, but when we have an autoimmune reaction, now let me define that. Autoimmune means your body is creating disease in the body itself, or it's attacking itself. It's not like you went to your friend Joey's house and you caught diabetes, okay? When you catch something, that is considered a non-autoimmune problem. That's just a disease process. Now, when we have an autoimmune reaction, the body creates that, right? Now, when we have an autoimmune reaction, typically 50 to 60% of other things in our body are being attacked at the same time. So, for example, somebody that has diabetes could also have, some cancers, or it could have irritable bowel, it could have endometriosis, it could have PCOS, it could have all kinds of different things happening all at the same time. And that's what we're looking for. We're looking to see is, okay, what's happening to that person, what's happening over the long haul of what's happening to them. Not just that one thing that they're coming in for, but we've got to protect them for their health for the future as well. And wouldn't you want us to do that? So you don't end up having to have a problem way down the line? That's not okay in my book for doctors to let that go. And it's not their fault. They're trained that, okay, here are your symptoms, here's your disease process. So getting help, let's talk about that. Now, traditionally, when you go to your doctor's office, they're going to run some tests and then they're going to say, oh, you've got this or this, and let's manage that. Well, let's look at the statistics from the World Health Organization. Now, if you don't know who they are, they're the guys that control and manage all the medical associations in the entire world. And this is what they had to say. They said that 90% of all diseases prevalent today are not treatable with orthodox medical procedures. So what does that mean? Treatable means curable. So that means 90% of the diseases out there, they want to manage it. Is that fair to you? I would say not, okay? Now, in their defense, that's how they're trained and that's how they look at things. We look at things differently. We look at why did the body fail in the first place, support that mechanism and let the body make that decision to allow it to heal itself on its own. Wouldn't you rather that than be managed for that sickness or disease process, right? I'd much rather allow the body to do what it was meant to do, right? Okay, so let me ask you this bold question. How many of you guys think that you can predict your own health? And most people say no, okay? But I'm going to tell you, you absolutely can, yes. Because if you order the correct tests, okay, and not the ones that the insurance companies will tell you, oh, you can have these tests, because they'll give you limited tests because they know if you run the correct tests, you'll actually get rid of the problem. Because sadly, insurance companies want to keep you sick because they make more money when you're sick. Because guess what they get to do? They get to raise your deductible and deny care. So that maximizes profits, doesn't it? How do I know? My father was a vice president for an insurance company. So I understand how it all works. Number 2 is determine the true underlying cause of why did it happen to me in the first place? Remember, Dr. Why. Why? Get to the basement of what happened to you so we can support the body and reverse that problem for you, or your body reverses that problem for you, okay? Number 3, focus on the cause and not the symptoms. It's not that we don't want to hear about the symptoms, it's that if we can find out why, we don't necessarily need the symptoms, because remember, most symptoms are all the same, okay? Typically in autoimmune, or that 90% that they were talking about, right? Okay, number 4, correct the dysfunction and don't alter the labs with drugs, because we've seen this time and time again, where the labs look great, but you still feel terrible. How many of you are doing that one? That was me. I was really sick, and my labs look great, and the doctor's like, well, maybe you need to take some Celexa. Really? It's not in my head, doc. I'm really sick. And once we found the doc to help me to get better, reverse that problem, you can't stop me from learning to help more people to get better. This is my life's work, and I want to do nothing else but to help you guys to get better. Okay? And address the body as a whole. Here's the problem in medicine, and don't get me wrong, specialties are great when we need them, okay? But traditionally what's happening is this, is that we've got to look at it in terms we can understand. It's kind of like the entire forest is on fire, and the specialist is looking at a tick on the tree in the middle of the forest instead of the forest fire. Does that sound about right? Of course, because that's what's happening. Because we're so focused on that, we're forgetting everything else. So what we do is we look at you as a whole person, what they call is holistic medicine, okay, or functional medicine. We look at you completely different on your labs and on your assessments than traditional doctors do, okay? And then we do a systematic approach. Now this system was built off of my own ill health, okay? When I was really sick, I was writing down everything that Dr. Kessinger did for me, writing it down and had him mentor me through the whole thing. So when I got well, I knew I wanted to do this so I could give this to the rest of my patients. Now this happened a long time ago. And I've kept up with years and years and years of the newest research and the newest things to be able to help you to explode your results, to get your body to do exactly what it's supposed to do. And the biggest thing is we mentor you through it. We've got the best people in the office. We've got nutritionists. We've got neural integrative therapy people. We've got hyperbaric chambers. It just depends on what your body is going to need is what we put your body into to help it to make that decision to start getting the body better. Does that make sense? We want to empower your body to get better, not knock it down with meds and pharmaceuticals to manage it. Okay? That's the wave of the past. Functional medicine is the future. Even look at the Cleveland Clinic. Now, what I taught you guys is like this iceberg. You guys know the top of the iceberg. And realistically, you know probably 90% or more than most doctors out there right now. They know the snow on top of the iceberg. What I know is what's below the surface. Now, what if you were the Titanic? And now recent research says that the Titanic was even flawed before it went off the dock. That's why when it hit the iceberg, it cracked open. It wasn't the iceberg per se. Right now with people with symptoms and disease processes, you're like that cracked Titanic. What if this iceberg comes along, smacks into you, and you crash apart? That's what happened to me, because I didn't know what I didn't know. What we can help you and teach you and mentor you through is what you can't see. So we can help your body to be the best body that it can be, to make the right decisions, your brain, your body, to align itself to get you better. Now, who doesn't want that? And the sad thing is most people think I can do it on my own. Now, this isn't my statistic, this is Harvard's. Harvard says 94% of all failure is due to not having a system in place. So that means all of you out there, 6% of you might make it. Who's willing to bet on 6%? Yeah, I didn't think so. I want you to be better, guys. Now, I want you guys to ask yourselves these questions, okay? Because at the Institute, we take on about 10 new patients per month. That's it. We have so many other doctors referring to us and other patients that are already patients referring to us that we can literally take on 10 per month, okay? So I want you to seriously ask yourselves these questions in order to make an application to the Institute, okay, to see if we can help you. So number one, how would my life be if I were able to resolve my own health issues? What does that look like for you? I can't answer that for you. That's for you to answer yourself. Number two, how has my life been affected? My relationships, my ability to work, my grandkids, my kids. Am I able to do what I want to get out of life? Am I doing what God designed me to do on this earth to give back to humanity? And number three, on a scale of 1 to 10, how motivated am I to get myself better? Now, if you say 8 or less, don't even apply, because you're not serious enough. And I'm not going to drag you along with me like that man in the car with his dog. It's not okay. But if you're serious and you want to get better, I will run to the end of the earth with you to help you to get better, because I was there too. And if it wasn't for Dr. Kessinger, I wouldn't be here to help you. And if you don't want part of my passion to help you to get better, then you need to probably go somewhere else. Okay? So I want you to wake up and stop procrastinating, because as Americans, we procrastinate. Okay? Don't have over-analysis or paralysis of analysis. Don't let that happen to you. Don't let it get in the way of you getting better, or you getting results, you getting your life back. Okay? So what will it look like if you decide to make an application? We literally put a personalized lifestyle program together for you. Even if you had an identical twin, it would look completely different, okay? Because we do it on your own body's biochemistry and what your brain is actually doing. So what we do when you come into the Institute, okay, as you're making application, there's one test that we require before you come in, okay? It's the QEEG that we talked about earlier. I need to see, what is your brain doing? How is your brain perceiving the things that are going on in your body? Because that's going to tell us and guide us to, all right, what do we have to do lab-wise or detox-wise or different things for your body? So we make it mandatory before you come in, okay? And we'll go over that at your application interview, okay? So we'll go over your application interview. We're going to sit down. We're going to discuss also your wellness evaluation. Your wellness evaluation, we're also going to send you. It is extremely detailed. It'll take you about an hour to fill out, okay? And if you're saying, oh, an hour to fill out, what's an hour of your life to get your life back, okay? And realistically, if you're saying that, this might not be the place for you because you're not taking your life seriously enough. And the next step is we'll put a plan of action together. And I only do this truly if you really want to be here and if I believe I can positively affect your body to help to get better. I'm not a salesman, guys. I want you to be better, whether it's us or somewhere else. I'm not going to set up a plan and drag you through it, okay? I've been doing this too long and have too many patients to worry about doing that, to be a salesman, okay? So what does it look like cost-wise for you to come in, okay? Now, the brain scan, it costs me $697 to run it, okay? That's without me even charging for my time. Okay, so does that mean I'm giving away my time? Yeah, it does. That means I'm not charging you for my time at all. And because you guys are on this webinar, I'm also going to discount this, okay? I'm going to discount it to $187. So you mean, Doc, that they charge you $697 and you're all going to charge me $197? Yeah, that's exactly what it means. That means I'm helping to pay for that to see if I can help you. Is that fair? Yeah, it is fair. And I would highly suggest you take advantage of that. Now, if there's anybody else in your household, like your wife or your husband or your kids, okay, if they also want to get checked, we just charge an additional $147 per person. Now, here's the deal, guys. When you make an application and we sit down together, imagine all this information we went over right now, how detailed it was. Imagine how much more detailed it's going to be when we sit down with your case. So here are the things. Number one, your significant other needs to be there, and you know why. We need them for support for you, and also, realistically, there's a lot of things that people forget that their spouse knows and remembers. So they need to be there, okay? Without fail. I will not move forward unless they're there with you. And the second thing is if we move forward and put a plan of action together, we will go through financial things at that time. And that way you guys can make a right decision for your own household economy, okay? I mean, there is an investment, you know, and we also have in place, you know, there's different care plans, you know, as far as different places that could stretch out payments or do different things for you, okay? Now, number two, people think, okay, if I have blood work, can I bring it? Absolutely, bring it. It's only going to give us a little bit of a leg up. It's probably the wrong blood work anyway, but that's okay. We're going to look at it and see, is there imbalances happening within the body? Or if you have any MRIs or CAT scans or whatever, please bring them. We'd love to see that. For those of you that are out there that may be across the country, I see most of my patients are actually not even in the Philadelphia area. Okay, I have patients in Alaska, I have patients in Italy, I have patients in Ireland, I have patients in Malaysia. Okay, so don't let that be a burden for you. I do a lot of telemedicine, so with Skype or Zoom, all those different things, we do a lot of that. So don't let that be a barrier for you, okay? So what I want you to do is I want you to click the button to sign up, and you're going to go through the card processing for the 187 or the 147, and I really hope to see you guys soon. God bless you and have a great day.